of the ribbon alphabet workshops.
Thanks, Jen. That's great. Thanks for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone, and yeah, thanks for joining us again in the second part of this workshop. I know some of you will have been at the lesson last week, and some of you won't. So I'm going to give a bit of a quick recap to start with. Okay, so give me 1 second. Yeah, so my name is Mark Titchner. I'm an artist based in London, and most of my work uses text and words. So the idea for this, and I've made numerous projects with hospital rooms as well over the last few years. So the idea with this workshop was to kind of make our own font up. And a font is just is just another way of saying, you know, the letters that make up an alphabet and the particular style that they might be in. As I mentioned last week, I'm not an expert typographer, so we're breaking all sorts of typography rules here, but that's not really, you know, the point. So obviously there are lots and lots of different kind of fonts we can choose to use, and this workshop came about because I was asked to produce an artwork which took on the idea of celebration, and I wondered what a font for that might look like. So I started thinking about ribbons and sort of ticker tape, and these were the kind of artworks that I came up with, which led onto this workshop. So without any further ado, so I'm going to just a quick recap of what we did last week. So last week, and it took quite a long time, we went through the alphabet using our streamers to make our own alphabets. And I hope those of you that were at the session have got these at hand. I'm sure they all look quite different. Here's what I came up with, and it was very much sort of learning as we went along. So we found I found that the way that I was working was to take a long piece of the streamer and kind of cover it with glue, and then lay it down and almost like write with the streamer as I was going along, and that's what I did. So the idea for today's session is that we're going to take this alphabet that we made up, and we're going to use these letters in what is really, I guess, a drawing exercise to make some text-based art. And what I'm going to do in a minute, I guess, is to ask you a question which I'd like you to kind of have a think about and respond to. Now, I'll also give you a few ideas for people who maybe missed the first session, so that they're not kind of left behind. So I want you to just ponder this question really, which is thinking about this particular moment in time. Think of something that you would like to do, a place that you would like to go, someone you would like to see, or even something you would like to eat or drink. Just have a think about that. Let that sort of go around your head for a minute. And then in a few moments or a few minutes, we're going to start thinking about how we could construct that using the alphabet we have. So I'm going to give you an example beforehand of what I hope we're going to do. Okay. Now, for those of you who weren't able to attend last week, I think there's a few things that you can do. One is just to work with the streamers or the pieces of ribbon or paper that you have, and to take the answer or your response to that question and just start writing it down. Don't with the ribbon. So, you know, in a way, not worrying about the alphabet that we did last week. The other thing that you could, some of the letters that were on the printouts to make up the phrases that you come up with, and you might want to, for instance, colour in or shade in the letters to kind of embellish them and to create an effect a bit like we're going to do, try and capture in the drawing. Okay, so that's another thing. another way of doing it is if you want to, and I guess if you feel like you don't want to respond to that question, you could choose something else. So perhaps you want to write your name or, you know, name of the town you're from, or just something. This is just a way of testing out the font. Now, if we made a whole alphabet last week, but it may be that you don't need to do that to write what you're gonna need to do. So you can just work on the letters that you need, if that makes sense. So I'm going to try and show you what I mean about the way we want to draw today. Last week, I showed you an example by an artist, very famous artist called Ed Ruscha, where he'd made these pieces of writing using paper, and then he'd kind of lit them very strongly to make them look, I guess, look like a sculpture. Did you all see that? Okay.
I think if you're able to just hold it up one more time, Mark.
Sure. Let me. Look, this is words. You can see I in that one. So that's kind of like a more extreme version of what I'm talking about. Okay, so what we're going to start off as an example. Maybe you want to do this too with one of the letters that we have. So I want to look at this letter. I'm going to try and draw it, and I'm looking at how the paper, it's not going to be exact. I'm not very good at drawing really, so it will be an approximation, but I'm going to try. Oh, broke my pencil. I'm going to try and look at how it folds up. Okay, we just draw it in roughly because we can always improve it later. Okay, and that would be, for instance, an A. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through our text that we're working on, and we're going to use our alphabet to make up our piece of writing. Okay, and what I want to really try and do is look carefully at the paper and the kind of shapes that it's making, and trying to give it a sense of having some sort of depth, or this tripod in a really awkward way, so I can't move my arm. So that would be an example. And I've got, I don't know, you might have pencils, or you might have crayons there. Got some felt pens as well. I'm going to try and use those. And again, I'm doing this a bit quickly, so it's not very neat, but that's okay. And you might be able to use your felt pens to create some lines which kind of help explain where the folds and stuff are. How some parts are darker or lighter. And we're going to just work into that. We allow ourselves a bit of time to do that. And then at the end of it, we'll have this kind of version of our pieces of writing in the font that we made up last week. So hopefully, while I've been talking, you've been having a think about what you might write. I know I've been trying to do that. I've had a little bit more time to think about it, so I'm cheating a bit, I suppose.
So Mark, to work out where you're kind of adding the shadow, you're using the alphabet that we made last week as a kind of reference to assess where the light's kind of hitting.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to do. So I'm looking, I suppose, quite hard at the alphabet, and I guess also thinking about which bits cross over the top, which other bits. So for instance, this bit of tape here, the streamer here is above this one, so I know it's going to be lighter. Okay, and then it's just sort of simple tricks like using a darker color to make a shadow underneath, or if you've got I used quite a dark color to start with, but you could start with a lighter color and try and build it up that way. I don't know if anyone, hopefully that's kind of clear what I was saying there. So it'll be a bit of a back and forth, looking at our pieces of writing, looking at our fonts and using that to show us what to do with the lettering. And as I say, if you don't feel you've got kind of time to do that, it doesn't necessarily, you can start it, you don't have to finish it in a session, or you might prefer to use the kind of ribbon alphabet that was in the pack. So hopefully you've all had a bit of time to think about something you'd like to do. And I've been thinking, I suppose, a lot recently about how I would like to, something that I would really like to do, and I would like to do right now, would be to go for a swim in the sea. So I've decided what I'm going to write down, and my example is I want to swim in the cold blue sea. I'm not sure where or how, but that's something I really like to do. So I'm going to start off looking at the letters that I need to work with. And I mentioned that, for instance, some of you who don't have the alphabet, you could just, like I say, start writing this down using the streamers, if you like, as well. So I'll give you, for example, the way that seems to work quite well was to tear off a length and then to fold it into shape. It really helps if you glue it down as you go along, which I won't do because I want to draw on this. But for argument's sake, there's my letter I. Okay, so and then you could glue those down as you go along. But I'm going to use the alphabet that we had last week. So I'm going to start off looking. So here's my I over here. What I want to do first, because I'm not sure I'm going to fit all this on, so I'm actually going to just try and sketch out where I think my letters might go. Okay, just really because I know I'm going to run out of space basically. This will give me an idea what sort of size I need to make my letters, which is actually quite small, which is going to be quite difficult. I'm sure you can do that.
Sorry to interject with a question. Are we going to be doing this on plain paper today, or are we going to be using the grid paper again?
I think you can use either. I think with the drawing, actually it might be easy. If you want to use the grid paper, it will help you. Which was the stuff we printed, were in the packs you printed out. It might help to see, how you might line stuff up. I didn't do that because I thought it might be a bit clearer if I just did it on the plain paper today. So it's really up to you which paper you use. If you're using the printed alphabets like this, it might be easier to use the grid to stick them down onto. It might help you align them a bit better. Okay. So if that's okay, I think unless there's any questions, I'll get started. So that's the first thing. I've just written down my example there, roughly. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to just go round. I'm starting at the beginning with my I, and I'm going to just really roughly go round all of the letters, like I say, looking at my example. So I've got that here, it's just out of shot, sorry. I'm using my I example here to try and work from, to see the shapes, looking at how the thing kind of joins together, and I'm going to, when I get that in roughly, I'm going to come back round on the sort of second run. These different sheet. Here's my W, and then I'm going to add some of the sort of more accurate shading and shadows, and hopefully be able to give a sense of depth. I've made a mistake here. So what I'm going to try and do when I draw this is actually almost break the letters down into the shapes. And it's not going, it doesn't, we're not trying to make a kind of completely photorealistic copy of what we've got here. We're just trying to get something which kind of captures the the kind of mood, I suppose, or the kind of shape, and it will, well, can't speak for you, but mine definitely will not be completely accurate.
Just a reminder for everyone joining in today, if you'd like to ask Mark a question, please feel free to drop that into the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, because I probably, unless you have questions, I won't. I'll talk about what I'm doing, but I'm also kind of concentrating a bit as well, so I might be a bit quieter than I was earlier. But yeah, please, and if you've got any questions, or also whilst you're drawing, if you have any kind of observations to share with everyone. Okay.
So we've got people joining us from a variety of different places today. Hello from Florida. We've got people in Hertfordshire, Worcester, Farnham Road Hospital. Big hello to you. And hello from Cheltenham as well. So thanks very much, everyone, for letting us know where you're tuning in from. And please feel free to drop any questions or let us know where you are in the Q&A.
When you're thinking about adding your colour and stuff onto the letters in a minute, one thing to think about is, if you can, like, starting with sort of lighter colours and building it up, so sort of adding the shade on top of the lighter colours. I'll show you what I mean as I kind of go through it, but it just means that you kind of, like, if you had an orangey colour like this Q here, you could maybe start with putting in a kind of pink or a yellow first, and then building that up with an orange to make a red, and that will give like a much more convincing sort of depth to it. So I'm regretting now not having used the grid paper, because I haven't got mine's going to be really wonky, but I think that's fine. So what I mean, for what I do as an artist generally is, I work a lot on the computer. So drawing for me is normally done inside the computer, and I think one of the things I like to try and do with these workshops, and the work that I've done with hospital rooms in the past, is to maybe do things that are a bit different to what I do normally, which quite often means that I end up doing things like drawing, or maybe stuff that I'm not very good at naturally. So this is a kind of very much a kind of not what my comfort zone. I think that's fine as well.
I think that's great to hear from you as a kind of practicing professional artist, Mark, because, you know, trying something new, it can be quite daunting. And that's what's really brilliant about the art school, is that it gives everyone a kind of a really fair, even chance to have a go at lots of different things. So thanks again for hosting this today.
No, I think that's part of the idea really, is to try and, you know, use this as a way of trying different things out, and actually, you know, realizing that it's not really, it doesn't really matter if stuff works in the way that you think it does, or like it's, I think what sort of kind of, you know, a lot of people have realized over the last year is actually that just doing the practice of drawing or collaging or whatever it is that you do is a good way of you know, shifting what you're thinking about somewhere else, kind of, and relaxing really. I made my S is my S in my font is quite strange. I have to. So I think I'm going to have quite a lot of work as I go round the second time, trying to make this all look a bit neater. I don't know how. It'd be good to know how you guys are getting on out there as well, whether you're making good progress.
And just a reminder for everyone as well, if you don't finish the activity in today's workshop, please feel free to carry on afterwards. And we'd absolutely love if you could upload your finished artworks to our website. That would be amazing. And we'll share them with Mark as well.
I've got a bit of a terror of the blank page, so I'm just want to get this down quick, and I'm not really too worried about whether it's a bit rough or not. I'd rather sort of have something that I can work back into. Some of you, I'm sure, are much more precise than me. And where are there's letters that I've got, which I've already drawn, like, see, I've done the I a couple of times now. I actually kind of using the drawing for reference rather than the font, which is I suppose slightly cheating.
What's lovely as well, Mark, is that we had some people participating last week who said that they were using kind of alternative materials. So we had people using kind of yarns and washi tapes, and I think it'll be amazing to see the differences that will come with those pieces.
Yeah, I saw some in the gallery. Someone had uploaded the one that they'd done in masking tape or washi tape, and that looked really cool. And actually, in hindsight, I think it might have been a kind of better way of doing this, because you're not worrying so much about you know, the glue and stuff. So mine's definitely taking on a kind of quite freestyle. Got this kind of tripod holding the camera right by my hand here, and I can't move my hand properly, so that's my excuse for why this is quite rough. You can see I've kind of I'm going to have a bit of an issue now fitting the next letter in, so I'm going to have to see what I can do about that. I've made one new word up here, which is like swimming the. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and squeeze this H in underneath and hopefully leave myself enough room just to fit the E in. I think ideally all the kind of letters, the ribbon would all be the same sort of width, so it looks like it's the same material. I think probably just need to plan slightly better than I did for So I suppose there's no reason why you couldn't just go over onto another piece of paper if you wanted to. Okay, just about got that on. It's not so that there's my actual E. I've had to sort of chop the ends off it a bit. But the good news is I'm excited about being on the last line. So I'm gonna, what I really want to do is get on with the colouring.
And when we move on to the colours, Mark, are they going to be the same as the ones that we used on the paper streamers last week?
I think what I'll do, because I think it's probably clearer to show what I mean. I'm gonna do that, but actually I think you can use whatever colour you want. I don't think there's any. You might want to do them all one colour, for instance. There's no, we don't need to have a kind of rule about that. So just, yeah, whatever you want to do. So I think really, yeah, this is quite a lot to try and do in a kind of session. We're going to go for it.
We'd love to know what everyone else has chosen to write as their phrase. Let us know in the Q&A box.
And again, I'm going to go for a little bit of unusual spacing here. So I'm going to fit, I'm running out of space again. So I'm going to fit my D sort of in my L here. My writing's getting smaller and smaller as I go along, which is a sign that I haven't really spaced this out at all well, but never mind. I've now come across my B, which is like super complicated, the most complicated of all the letters I drew. This made up the stream last week. So I think because at the beginning I was tearing up all of the pieces individually, and then later on, as we kind of went through it, I worked out that we could make the letters that one continuous strip.
We've had a comment from Lorraine, who's joined us today. She's just joining for today's session and wanted to write one simple word, and that word is.
That's an excellent idea, and I think actually, if you concentrate, I think there's more. If concentrating on one word will give you a bit more time to kind of really work into it a bit. And I wonder what colour Lorraine is going to use. So I can already see that time is disappearing fast. I really want to get into colouring this in, so I'm going to go as quick as I can now. 3 more letters to do. Right, where's my S is another, sorry.
Just let us know that she's writing sitting close together. I think that's one that we can kind of really empathize with.
Yes. Okay, last couple now. So okay, so there we go. I've got my word in. So I'm going to start off trying to colour this in. They use the letters as a kind of reference as well. So just in case I run out of time a bit, I'm going to start off and do maybe all the yellow letters first. So in my alphabet, that was the T. Now this is an example of what I was talking about using building up with the lighter colours. So obviously the yellow is kind of is the lightest. So you can use that. Any more T's? There we go. What else? N. Maybe I'll get lucky and it was all yellow. I as well. Just to prove that I'm not just pretending that all of these are yellow. And again, I'm doing this quite roughly. So what else did I say? I've got another I up here. And so I guess the idea is as well is, you know, we want something that's something which kind of has a certain kind of mood to it as well. So it's not just about one good thing about drawing quite quickly is the kind of, you know, things look a bit more immediate or a bit more fluid than if you're worrying about them. So any more yellow letters? No. Okay, right. I'm gonna do green. Have I got any green in my original alphabet? Right, so S.
Just to give everyone an indication of time, we've got about 10 minutes of the session left. Please feel free to carry on with this long after the workshop's ended. And if you have any additional questions that you'd like to ask Mark, now would be the time to do so.
So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to block in the colours quickly, and then I'm going to go back round and start adding some sort of shadow in. So I'll probably use either a kind of blue, a kind of grey or a black pen to do that. Or if it's like, for instance, with the green, it might be, I don't know what pens you have, but you might have like a darker shade of green that you could use. So let's start doing that sort of thing. I'm gonna leave that to dry actually. Right, so what else? Colours, red. I'm going to cheat a bit, so I want something a little bit lighter. So I'm going to use this kind of dark pink colour instead of the red. This is what they call artistic license. Okay, so feel free to take it.
And are those any kind of specific brand or type of pens that you're using, Mark?
They're I actually I've stolen these from my son. So they're kids' felt pens. I think they're Staedtler ones. They're nothing. The good thing about these ones is that they've got a thick pen on one end, which is really good. You know, it's quick to use. So but I mean, you might even, you know, you want to do this just in without colour, just with pencil and just with shading perhaps. This is the bit where I can't move my hand, so I'm going to be very rough in that corner. Yeah. I think, yeah, this is definitely something you could spend a bit of time on if you have it, to kind of do it a bit more accurately. Or though some of you, I presume, if you've written something a bit shorter, will have had a little bit more time. Oh, I used the wrong green, never mind. Right, so I'm going to do a blue now. So the two colours I've got left to do are kind of blue and a purple. So I'm going to just kind of do those in a slightly random way.
Just coming into the last 5 minutes of the workshop, Mark.
Okay.
And we've had a question come through from Alice in Oxford. And Alice would like to know, why and when did Mark start writing art? Writing is in quotation.
That's a good question. Kind of by accident. I used to make, when I sort of finished at art school, I suppose it took probably 5 or 6 years before I started started writing, and I think the reason that I did is because I'd always liked reading, and I don't have quite a bad memory, so I always used to keep lots of notes, and I'd put post-it notes in books and, you know, all that sort of thing. So I guess it was a way of kind of including that reading in my work a bit more. And I think also I just wanted to do something, start working in a way which was a bit more direct. So when I started working with text, it was a bit like it just made a lot of sense. Like I felt like I probably should have realised that was what I should do a long time before, but it was a bit like, you know, one of those moments where you can't see the wood trees. And I guess it's been, you know, I've been doing it now for best part of sort of 20 years, so it's kind of it's sort of quite ingrained now in how I think about making work. Quite like to do something else now, really, but stuck.
So we can see that you're kind of getting to the end of the piece that you're working on now, Mark. We've just had a question come through. What do we do with the background once the letters are finished?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, I wasn't going to do very much for the background, but yeah, you absolutely could start I mean, I guess one of the things I liked about the idea of this was if you kind of draw on something against a white sort of paper with putting some shadows and stuff in it, starts to look like it, can come out of the page a bit. So I think that's partly why I was thinking I would just sort of leave the background, but it's absolutely no reason at all why you couldn't, start to make a bit of a pattern or do whatever absolutely free to do whatever you think with. I just want to try. So with the light color like that, I think it's possible to put the shading on with a pencil. You can see that, which is what I'm going to try and do. So the two things I'm going to do, just try and do quickly, and I am still looking at my examples here, is to look at where the kind of main shadows are, and those would be the bottom of the letters. Start building, looking at where the letters kind of cross over on top of each other, and this is something that I think actually you could spend if you had some time, you could really spend some time building that kind of illusion of the kind of depth in the letters up a bit, using what we made last week as an example, and also you can see what I'm kind of doing as I go along. I'm still doing it quite quickly, but is starting to tighten the sort of the shape of the letters up. And you might find as well that you want to get another, you can start adding another color to kind of bring the depth out as well. The different sorts of marks. So I'm using a kind of, I guess what, a kind of hatching is the right word. There's sort of smaller marks there. And then you could go way up to using something like, like a black pen to put a kind of final kind of outline. So I go back to my original, like on the one trick, which I remember being told at art school many years ago, which is quite useful, is if you want to see a bit more clearly where shadows are, is if you squint at the thing that you're looking at, it kind of makes the kind of contrast higher, so it's more possible to see where the darkest areas are. So you might try doing that. So that A is kind of more where I would be thinking about heading with the letters and how they look. If I've had a bit more time to build it up. So again, once going through this bit of it, we're trying to think about how the letters or how the paper kind of folds on top of each other. So thinking about, it's almost like how the paper flows.
That's wonderful, Mark. So we've reached the end of the workshop today. Are there any kind of final tips or tricks that you want to leave us with for when we're finishing our alphabets?
Well, one of them is probably based on what I've done today, is like to just allow yourself enough time, especially when you're thinking about laying stuff out, because you can see I really did run out of space a bit there. So spending a little bit of time planning where you're going to go with it. Also thinking back to the earlier question about what you might do in the background. And if you did want to carry on with that, one thing that you could start doing is to think about what you've written. So for instance, I could do like I'm referring to the sea and the color. So perhaps coloring the background in blue, or, even having some sort of seascape behind could be really cool. just, yeah, thinking about how you might kind of further kind of convey what you're trying to say in the phrase that you've chosen to write today.
Amazing. We've just got one final last question to wrap up the session today, Mark, and it's from Nora. Nora says, I used washi tape, so I don't have any shadows, just rips. What can I do?
Well, again, thinking about the rips, I mean, quickly, actually an artist friend of mine, he makes a lot of his work out of drawings that he makes, I guess, in a bit like the style of things in washi tape. So what I would think about with the washi tape is actually drawing the kind of strips. So almost like trying to, and I think with the washi tape, you will find as well that probably is, you know, like a little bit of a shadow on one edge, and you can always use a bit of artistic license. You know, there's no reason why, if you wanted it to look a bit more like it was jumping up the page, just to add more shadow than is there. But I think it's, yeah, you could hopefully still do something, you know, thinking about the shapes of the words as well, the outline of them. So maybe something like that.
Fantastic. Thanks for showing us that extra tip and trick, Mark. I'd like to just say a huge thank you again, and on behalf of Hospital Rooms, for such a wonderful workshop, and to everyone that's taken part in the workshop today. Thanks so much to everyone that submitted a question and let us know where you've been joining us from today. And another huge thank you to our wonderful supporters, Anthropologie. I'm now going to launch a very quick poll, and it's just for everyone who's joining us to give us a really quick indication of how you found the workshop today. That should be popping up on your screens now. So I'm just going to give that a few more seconds. Thank you very much to everyone that submitted. Natalie, if you could please bring back our slideshow. Perfect. Thank you again, everyone that's joined us today. It's been a really wonderful workshop and a really great way of ending this term. If you're still here, I'd like to share a little bit about Hospital Rooms and how the workshop today has come about. We're a London-based arts and mental health charity, and we transform inpatient mental health units with contemporary art. We're really thrilled that a lot of the units that we've worked with previously or hope to work with in future have joined us for these sessions. So we began the Digital Art School in response to COVID-19, as we would normally go into units and lead workshops in person and create wonderful and immersive artworks. That, of course, was put on hold due to lockdown, so we decided to launch the Digital Art School. It's really important for us to build a wonderful creative community where we can all join together and feel part of something special. You can find the library of our past projects and all of the previous Digital Art School workshops on our YouTube channel, which you can watch back at any time. And you'll find a whole range of workshops spanning from collage to painting through to sculpture. And we'd really encourage you to have a look and subscribe. We're always uploading brand new videos, and by subscribing, you'll never miss a session. All of these videos include captioning as well. We also have a Digital Art School mailing list, which will keep you informed of upcoming workshops and materials that you'll need, along with any relevant downloads and links to last week's video. You can sign up for that at hospital-rooms.com. You can also share your artworks with us from any of our workshops by uploading into our online gallery. We absolutely love to see them. You can do it anonymously, or you can let us know your name and where you are. We love seeing your works that you've created, and it really helps us to build that sense of community together. Today was the last workshop of this current term, and we'll be taking a very short break whilst we plan for the next term. Please do sign up to our Digital Art School newsletter to keep updated about when you'll be able to register for the new workshops. If you'd like to get your hands on a free art materials box for your mental health unit, the Digital Art School newsletter will be the very first place where you'll be able to find out how to do this. We'll be giving away 50 boxes, and they do fly out the door very quickly, so please do sign up to the newsletter. We'll be back on Thursday, the 29th of April with Michelle Williams-Gamaker for an exciting workshop where we'll be using collage to create mythical creatures. We'd love to see you all there for that. So from me and everyone at Hospital Rooms, thank you all so much for joining us today. A huge thank you to Mark Titchner for leading today's wonderful workshop. And thanks once again to everyone at Anthropologie for your very kind support. Happy Easter, everyone, and we'll see you all again on Thursday, the 29th of April.